Women thrive when there's more freedom, less government intervention, and really more power put in place in the people's hands. And one of the other big priorities that we're going to have at Independent Women's Forum is promoting economic growth and economic opportunity. And this is something that matters a lot for women. It also matters for, mature adults, many of whom want to keep working, need to keep working, but also don't want to be limited to a 9-to-5 job. We care deeply about women in shelters. We care about women who are imprisoned, and we believe that you should be able to have things like sororities and other institutions, and know that if you're signing your daughter up for a sleepaway camp and it's supposed to be an all-girl sleepaway camp, you know that that's actually going to be an all-girl sleepaway camp. That word girl is going to have a meaning.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Weber. You're watching Better for America. Today, we are honored to have with us Carrie Lukas. She is the president of the Independent Women's Forum. This is a leading group, really doing a tremendous amount of work. She is a leading voice in promoting free markets and limited government and advancing policies that empower women and families. Now, Carrie brings a wealth of experience in public policy and advocacy, with a career that really spans so many influential roles in both domestic and international organizations. Carrie is not only a thought leader, but an accomplished author and commentator, and she is known for her incisive analysis on issues ranging from education and the economy to cultural trends and gender policy. So today, we're going to delve into Carrie's vision for the Independent Women's Forum, her insights on pressing policy issues, the issues that matter most to you, and her perspective on how women can thrive in today's rapidly changing social and economic landscape. Carrie, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you with me.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, let's begin by hearing about your journey becoming the president of the Independent Women's Forum and what really motivates your work, because this is truly a pivotal role and much needed in America today.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so fortunate. I've been with Independent Women's Forum for more than 20 years. The organization has existed for a little more than 30 years now. So I've been there for a long part of our history. And we really were started with the vision of trying to be a voice for women and to represent the interests of women when it comes to public policy. So often there's an assumption that that women benefit from larger government, from more government regulation and spending. And in fact, there's a lot of concrete data that shows the opposite, and that women thrive when there's more freedom, less government intervention, and really more power put in place in the people's hands. So that's what we've been doing. And I'm really fortunate. It's an organization that walks the walk and provides our working female workforce with a lot of flexibility to have families and pursue other pursuits. So it's been a real blessing to be a part of this organization.
Yes, and the organization has been a real blessing to the American people, truly, recognizing that big government, bloated government is not the answer, and that you as an individual know better what's right for you and how to live your life. So getting government out of our day-to-day lives is so important here at AMAC, and we applaud the great work that your group is doing. And Carrie, you've written that policy leaders should make it easier for families and the elderly to engage live-in caregiving help. And when you and I were speaking, and I was speaking with members of your group, this really resonated with me because as the CEO of AMAC, representing over 2 million Americans, mature Americans, we see firsthand how devastating it is to families and to the elderly when they can't afford that live-in caregiving help. I went through it with my own father, and I thought to myself, my gosh, thank God he had 5 children, because we surrounded him 24/7 in his final months. But this is something that can really crush families. So you wrote an article on the American Caregiving Program, and that outlines this very bold initiative, but it is a tremendous, innovative solution to address not just elder care needs, but child care needs in our country. Can you share more about the inspiration behind expanding the au pair program? Tell us a little bit about that and how you see your initiative empowering American families.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate that because I do think that this is something the conservatives need to talk a lot about because
Mm.
sometimes the left, they have one solution on any problem that when it comes to something like caregiving or the challenges of finding caregiving, and that's to throw government money at it. As we've always seen, this typically doesn't end up working very well. And so instead, we need to think through, but that doesn't mean there's not a problem. And, I'm a mother of five. I've got children in college, some that are still relatively little. And, I know firsthand that it's often been a challenge to find childcare help. And then I have, my elderly parents. This is there's these two chime. We hear a lot about the child care part of things, and then often much less about the elder care part of challenges. So what we started thinking about is let's look at models that work. What is working, and what are the barriers for more solutions coming up? Because one of the great things about America is that usually you can find win-win. Somebody's looking to provide a service, and there's somebody looking to get a service. And why is there this breakdown in child care? And we identified one kind of innovative, kind of underappreciated care option is the au pair program. And in case people don't know what that is, I'll just quickly explain what it is because it's kind of unique. It's funny because really it's run out of the Department of State, which I think is surprising. You don't think of the Department of State as being involved in childcare, but what this really is it's an immigration program. It's something where you have a special sort of immigration of option to come into the United States. It has to be a foreign national. Right now is eligible to become an au pair. There's an age limit. It's somebody who has to be, I believe it's like 19 to 26. It has to be someone who falls in that. And then if they pass a background check, there's organizations that help identify promising applicants, and they're vetted. There's background checks. There's kind of an application process, but then they're paired with host families. So it's considered not just it's not just engaging someone, it's having them live in your home. There's an expectation that they'll join you for meals and really become a part of the family. And there's obviously they receive room and board, which is, as we know, a tremendous value. And basically it's the equivalent of a considerable payment in terms of getting those expenses paid for. But then they also do get some money in addition, and they live with the family, and it's usually for between 1 and 2 years. Right now, that's limited to providing childcare. But the initial thought was this actually came about because the Biden administration was thinking about imposing new regulations on this that would have crushed this program. And as Independent Women's Forum, there was a number of people who had au pairs and said, oh my goodness, this would be such a disaster. And so we helped organize people, writing letters, sharing their experiences, and also the au pairs themselves who said, hey, this is a win for me. Like, stop trying to, create more regulations and force people to pay me more and make this more, bureaucratic and overregulated, because that would destroy opportunities for these au pairs. So the good news is that those regulations were stopped, and they will not be revisited by. Feel confident they won't be revisited by the Trump administration. But in terms of looking at this, we started thinking, my goodness, why is this limited just to providing childcare? Because there are a lot of healthy senior citizens who want to age at home, but as they grow older, as they become like can't do they could use a set of hands around the house. They could use somebody to help them drive, to help them do chores, grocery shopping, moving heavy things, preparing meals, doing all those things that it gets harder and harder to do as when you get older. And as you said, often you can have family members who can come, but not everybody has that support, and it's a real challenge. And the good thing is that a lot of senior citizens do have a spare bedroom, and would so could have somebody live with them. So I feel like that's an easy fix will be to say, hey, let's take this existing program that's in good standing, operating well, and by the way, doesn't cost the American taxpayer a dime. This is just facilitating. Host families end up paying for the background checks and things like that to get this qualified, vetted. They get to interview them, caregiver. So I think that's one thing that should be able to happen right away, is that rather than making this just children, to making it people like for senior citizens as well. So that's I feel like I'm very hopeful that that's a change that we can work on.
You know, Carrie, I think that the work that the IWF is doing should be applauded, and AMAC Action will be getting involved. We'll be engaging with our members across all 50 states. We want your thoughts here on expanding this program. The State Department's au pair program truly is a model that should be replicated. I think that people should not only be able to host foreign au pairs, but also engage qualified, vetted American citizens and residents of all ages for live-in positions, including for senior care. So that's what we'll be working on with you. You'll be in the lead there, and I'm excited to see how AMAC members can play a part. So important that we don't forget about our seniors. But, you know, Carrie, some might argue that expanding a program like this could be perhaps met with skepticism by unions or traditional caregivers. How do you address the concerns about potential competition or maybe resistance from existing caregiving industries? Like, who might push against this initiative? Because it seems like such a common sense solution.
Yeah, well, Rebecca, you're absolutely right that I do think that if this we've got the one program that's already in place and is focused on foreign nationals. But that is the second question: is why do we have to only engage people if there's this willing if there's people who want to accept these terms, to have room and board, to have live in somebody's home and work in similar working conditions, why can't we also have Americans have that option? I absolutely think we should, and we should be trying to replicate that outside of the State Department and make this something that exists as an option for Americans to engage other Americans. But you're right, there will be more pushback to that because that does start to compete with, there's a set of labor laws that are subject around the country. We've got federal labor laws with the Fair Labor Standards Act, and then there's local laws. And for this to function properly, you do need to have a protection. You need to have the ability to work outside of some of those labor laws. And it's not because we want to exploit anybody, but because we know that when it comes to caregiving, the line between when you're providing care and not providing care is often really blurry. If I'm sitting there, or
Yes.
if I'm sitting there reading a book while either my dad is taking a nap, or whether my kid is quietly doing their homework. I may not be doing anything at that moment, but they might need something, and I'm standing at the ready. So there's always that question. You shouldn't have to, when as parents and as loved ones, as daughters, when we're caring for our loved ones, we don't like mark down the times. But like, now I'm providing care, now I'm not. But if you have to follow all the rules under some of these labor laws, you would have to try to determine that, and that makes it incredibly complicated, incredibly difficult, and that's why there's so much of a black market when it comes to caregiving. There's so many people who, pay under the table, don't try to make it a formal relationship, pay babysitters, but sometimes those babysitters can work a lot. And that's a problem. I think that's when you can have you have risks both for the caregivers who could be exploited, but then also there's less protection for the people who are employing them. So I think there will be pushback, and there will be some concerns that say, no, we really have to enforce the minimum wage laws, and you have to make sure you pay overtime after this much time. But I'm hopeful that there will be enough people who say, you know what, that's not how it works in a caregiving relationship. And we need to find the ability to create effectively contracts with people that are win-wins for both parties.
Yeah, it really is a win-win, and AMAC Action is definitely committed to engaging our members on this issue. We see so many concerned Americans, specifically AMAC members, who are suffering because their parents are not getting the care they need, or they themselves don't have children that can help
Yeah.
them. And we see how this drives older seniors into poverty very quickly. AMAC Action, I want to encourage everyone. Go to amacaction.org. Become an advocate. As an advocate, you're participating in our calls to action. You never have to leave your home. So at the very least, become an AMAC advocate so that you can become informed on the issues, engaged on the issues. You can take it a step further and join AMAC Action as a volunteer delegate. Go to amacaction.org. I highly recommend that. Everyone listening here, our 2020 report will be coming out soon, and you're going to see the amazing work of over 2 million AMAC members in the year 2024. I'm excited, Carrie, for 2025 and the great work that we can do with the new administration. What are some of the unique priorities for the Independent Women's Forum with in the new year with the new administration, who seems very committed to reducing government red tape and really returning resources and control over to we the people? So what are your initiatives for the new year?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say I'm so excited to get to work with you and with you guys on ideas like this, because I know that your members care about a lot of things and are really involved, not just in this type of issue, but can make an impact on so many issues. One that has been really near and dear to our heart at Independent Women's Forum has been the fight to protect women's spaces. That comes, we're talking about not just women's sports, although women's sports is the one that probably most people have heard the most about. But also we care deeply about women in shelters. We care about women who are imprisoned. And we believe that you should be able to have things like sororities and other institutions, and know that if you're signing your daughter up for a sleepaway camp and it's supposed to be an all-girl sleepaway camp, you know that that's actually going to be an all-girl sleepaway camp, that word girl is going to have a meaning, and should be no confusion about what that means. So that's something that I'm really excited about.
It is so desperately needed. We see that women are being unfairly treated, and this whole feminist movement has really backfired in a sense, because it's some of those very people that claim to be feminists that are insisting that men compete in women's sports, that men be able to access female spaces, including locker rooms, bathrooms. And it starts with the youth. They're teaching young people, you may have been born in the wrong body. And I just say this shouldn't be a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. This should be about just protecting children, protecting women in women's sports, and the safety of men and women across the board. So when we polled our members, Carrie, and we said, what are the top issues for you? Protecting our children and protecting women, specifically in women's sports, was really in the top 5. And I was pleased to see that, because I think AMAC members understand quite well that the future of America depends on how we govern today and what we teach our people today, our young people today. And we want an America that's going to be there for all of the people. So I think it's such common sense, and I love that you're working across the aisle with common sense solutions and just doing the right thing and protecting women. I think the administration is very much behind that. So I appreciate your thoughts there. Another issue where AMAC is really focused is going to be on Social Security. Our seniors are recognize that the Social Security will be insolvent in there's going to be a big shortage. That's going to be a reduction in benefits in 2034 if nothing is done. You've authored several studies over the decades on Social Security. Do you think that this administration is going to tackle it? Because it seems to be the third rail in politics. Not everyone wants to get involved or talk about Social Security and how to fix it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I do think that, it's one that President Trump was so explicit in during the campaign in saying that he's not going to touch Social Security. He's not going to change the benefit structure. So I think that this is something we'll have to wait and see. I don't think this is something we're going to expect to be part of that 2025 agenda. But I actually think that there's the Americans, one of the things that was most encouraging about 2024 and these election results were that there was this sense of okay, common sense is going to make a comeback. We're going to have the conversations, and we know that the American people can have this conversation and know that we could say, Social Security has real structural financial problems. We need to address that. Of course, that doesn't mean hurting any existing Social Security recipients. We can have these conversations. Seniors can be a part of these conversations and know that we're talking about the next generation and people for whom Social Security is in jeopardy. So I do think that there's going to be an appetite for more conversations about that. But one thing I would hope is that Social Security's fate and finances depend a lot on the overall economy. And one of the other big priorities that we're going to have at Independent Women's Forum is promoting economic growth and economic opportunity. And this is something that matters a lot for women. It also matters for mature adults, many of whom want to keep working, need to keep working, but also don't want to be limited to a 9-to-5 job. The Biden administration was very aggressive in trying to destroy or really limit, strangle independent contracting and these kind of flexible work opportunities. They did it saying that that they wanted to provide better benefits and better. They wanted people to have full employment, full benefits, and the protections that come with that. But there's a lot of women, like women, who would say, I don't want to be tied down. I don't want to have to answer to an employer and have to punch my clock at 9, stick around until 5. I want to be my own boss. And that's what independent contracting gives us. And I know that's the same for, mature Americans, for some senior citizens who want to have retired from their jobs, but want to keep earning income. And we should preserve those opportunities. So I think I'm really optimistic that we're going to work with this administration to make sure that we can have a both and. I want more traditional employment. I want more independent contracting employment. I want everybody's wages to start rising. I want prices to start coming down. And all those things are possible when we start having common sense and really looking for those win-wins and saying, why is government preventing us from allowing these opportunities from arising? Let's get some of the government regulations out of the way. Let's have more American energy production. Let's bring costs down and get this ball rolling, and that will that rising tide will help with things like Social Security as well as all the other income and other issues that face older Americans.
Terrific. Thank you so much for that perspective. AMAC will be watching closely, as we always do, on the Social Security front, including eliminating tax on your Social Security income if you are still working. These are all great initiatives, and we love the support from IWF. So, Carrie, how can people become involved with the Independent Women's Forum and help support the initiatives? Can you direct them to your site and/or newsletters?
Yeah. Oh, I really appreciate that. So please come visit us at iwf.org. We actually have something called Independent Women's Network, and you can find that it's IW Network. And you can sign up. It's a free membership. You can sign up to get our emails, action alerts, and other resources that might be of interest. We cover, one of our sayings is all issues are women's issues. So while we talk a lot about the issues like men and women's sports, we also cover everything from immigration and education to tax policy and even national security issues.
Terrific work at the Independent Women's Forum. Carrie Lukas, the president of the Independent Women's Forum. Thank you again for joining me here today. We so appreciate you.
Great. Thank you so much. Look forward to working with you next year.
Absolutely. Lots to come. And to all of you out there listening, be sure to renew or join with AMAC. Go to amac.us and join today. Tell friends and family all about AMAC. There is strength in numbers, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us. Thank you for joining me. I'm Rebecca Weber. That's it for today. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
The Association of Mature American Citizens is the conservative voice for Americans 50 and older. AMAC is fighting for the values that you hold dear. Join today. Together, we can write the course of America.